Is on now with John Zumwalt, of course, and you have guests.
Well, we do have a guest, everybody, and a very special guest, Congressman Dan Bishop from the 9th District. Good morning, Congressman.
Morning, John. Good morning, guys. Good to be with you.
Let me give a little preface before we get started, and we want to talk about a lot of different things here. I want to tell folks that Congressman Bishop drove in from Charlotte on a cold, wet, maybe icy in some places road, had to get up early to do it, and I want to point out to you something. Not everyone will do that. This is not election season. He came in because he wanted to talk to the people of Moore County. We know this is a very conservative Republican district, but he wanted to talk to you and share some of the concerns. We'll try to get him back by phone more often, but I really appreciate, and I know you do too, the fact that he took the time to get up and come in and be with us this early. I would like to point out that Congressman Hudson's been here a couple of times, Congressman Bishop, but he always has a big limousine with a driver and 2 or 3 security cars. I was surprised to see you on your motorcycle with Caroline on the back. Tell everybody who Caroline is, because they can see her on the camera.
So Caroline Winchester is a field representative for our district office, and she's come on recently, and we're sort of changing the way the district office works. We've been since I came in that special election in 2019. We wanted to make sure we got things back in operation in terms of taking care of constituent requests, VA needs, and so forth, and we do that very well. But what I think we've lacked, haven't done enough of, and want to improve about, is being present in the community. And Caroline's come on board. Liz Driver is our new district director, and we're just going to focus on that format really hard. So Caroline is all over the place, and she's doing a fantastic job.
So now we know that it's very difficult to pick up the phone and just get the congressman. I know you're busy, and we all know that.
Easier than you think, John.
Well, you know what? You've been very, 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 very available to just about. Well, I found you to be that way. Now, if someone has something they need to talk about to a congressman in this area, would Caroline be the person place they should start?
She would be, and I will say, I guess Caroline may whisper in my ear here, but I guess the way I would say, if I were trying to figure out how to do it, because I can't remember the telephone numbers, I would go to danbishop.house.gov, okay. danbishop.house.gov, and you'll get our official website, and all the contact information is there. They can call. We have a district office main district office is in Monroe in Union County, and we have an office that's not manned every day in Lumberton, but we've got a staff, and we can get back to you. And if people need to speak to me, they can do that. In fact, John, you may know one of the things that people, and I may have said it here before, but what people have laughed at me about is I really don't keep my cell phone number very private. People have got it, and when and I find, to your point about getting out, seeing people, Washington can be very isolating, and it affects your thinking. The only way to keep your legs under you and keep the right orientation, right perspective, is to be out and talk to people. So I enjoy it.
I want to get moving here pretty quickly.
Yep.
And I want to spend a little time on each topic.
Okay, we'll move fast.
Well, but I've got to point out to folks that you were here a couple of weeks ago. You didn't make a speech. You didn't campaign. You sat in the corner of our Celebrate America thing, and you watched 12 or 13 regular, ordinary citizens, including that young man, William.
Fantastic.
Wasn't he great?
Fantastic.
And some of the other ones that were the immigrants.
They were all good.
And you watched them speak, and you didn't capitalize off that. You just were seeing what I call myself the ordinary common person. And I know you don't like to refer to us as the common people. I hope you don't.
Well, I think of myself as the common people.
Okay.
I mean, but the point you make, John, I'd rather do that. Honestly, I'd rather do it. That was a fantastic event.
It was a great event, and folks, we're going to have more things like that. So, all right, let me start. We've had a lot of questions sent in by text that people want me to ask. Let me just start with one of those.
Mm-hmm.
HR 127.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to explain it because I want you. They would rather hear it from you, not from me. So will you explain that? And then would you explain the chances of that passing and what you would do to fight it?
It's a radical anti-gun bill introduced by Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas. It's not too dissimilar from another one that was introduced last Congress by Hank Johnson, the guy from Georgia. A lot of people know him as the guy who was concerned about whether Guam would tip over.
Never forget that.
That's amazing. But whether that advances in that form or not, I don't know. And I probably can't tell you all the provisions of it. But it's you got to have insurance to own a gun. You got to the licensing for every firearm. It bans on magazines of any capacity at all. It's these red flag laws where you take somebody's gun away if they're accused of something immediately without any due process. It is radical anti-gun. It is the expression by this radical left that's in the Congress that, look, in case you're not getting the message, we don't think you have any Second Amendment right at all, and we're coming right at you. That's what we're going to see, a flood of litigation like that, and more of it than you would like to know is going to get through the House. And we've got a very thin, lever in terms of whether the filibuster remains in the Senate, and people hold tough to prevent getting to 60 votes there to keep some of this stuff from becoming the law of the country. In fact, there's some I'm very worried about what we're going to see over the next 2 years, John, and that's a great example of one.
Well, Congressman, I think what the voters here want to hear you say, if it's the truth, is that you will fight to the core for our First and our Second Amendment rights.
With everything I got.
Okay. Well, I think that's what we want to hear. This is a First Amendment county, a Second Amendment county, maybe not officially, but the folks here believe in our Constitution. And I want to say to you, Congressman, because of the events that have happened, we want to do everything legally and by the Constitution. We are not ever advocating violence. I know you've spoken out against violence.
That's true.
A lot, and it seems to be important to say these days, because if you don't, the next thing you know, you're labeled someone who's instigating this stuff.
An insurrectionist, a traitor, seditionist. I get all those labels all the time by members of Congress. But you're right. No, we that's absolutely got to be rejected. But we are going to fight for our constitutional rights. We are, and I think that's, people want to be assured, to your point, that you've got people in Congress that actually care, because it seems like, and I think that's why Donald Trump penetrated so well, is he convinced people they believed that he was their ally, that he was on their side against the deep state, against the an FBI that's been politicized, against big corporations and lobbyists and big tech and so forth. And so I've firmly believed that, and that's the reason I'm sitting here, and I'm gonna stay after it in Washington, do everything that I've got. Now, they outnumber us, but we can stay at it.
Well, we have a lot of questions about the impeachment. I want to read a quote attributed to you during the first impeachment. We won't spend a lot of time on that, but I want folks to know how you stood. You said, and you can tell me if this is not a true quote, but you said the articles of impeachment they now advance are a self-parody and a laughingstock. They reveal that Democrats have no case and that they've lost their nerve. Is that accurate? I'm sure that was my statement. Well, I've said something probably more severe than that this time around. Well, I want to get to that, but first I want to let people know. You see what happens when someone with some backbone and is able to think is not afraid to stand up. We've just seen our North Carolina Republican leadership censure Richard Burr, and I saw that you spoke out in favor of that as well.
I did.
And not many people will take a stand like that. Now, folks, if you think that this is too much of a softball, no. When someone does something right, we need to point that out to you so you know it. And this next question, Congressman, can you tell us?
Let me remind everybody who you're talking to, which is Congressman Dan Bishop, who represents the 9th District, and that covers everything from Southern Pines, Pinehurst, Aberdeen, and draw a line across, and that's pretty much where he covers. But and then Richard Hudson takes care of the 6th District, which is north of us. All right, John.
Well, I wanted to wind up that little rant by saying that a lot of people talk a good game when they come here or wherever they might be, and they talk courage, but they don't have that courage of their convictions when they get back. And I found that you do, and especially when you immediately speak out and back our Republican party here for censoring Richard Byrd. A lot of folks won't do that. They'll mix their words. So it's wonderful to see. Another thing I want to talk about, and folks need to keep in mind that you were one of the ones that voted not to accept the results from Arizona and Pennsylvania.
That's true.
Can you talk to us a little bit about why that is? Because we're upset about that.
I'd be happy to. And John, let me say to the general point you made. Look, when Donald Trump came along, I'll be candid enough to say I wasn't so sure at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
But what I came to understand, and now is reflected every time I talk to people and everywhere, is that people are so fed up with things just continuing as they always do and nothing ever changing. The American people are a lot tougher than most of our members in Congress, and they want us to toughen up. And I think we need to toughen up. I think going forward, if we don't toughen up, that all that energy that President Trump generated and developed, the bottom's going to fall out of it, and we can't do a thing. So I'm going to fight for the country. That's what we're doing. Now, you were talking about, I think, the impeachment and Senator Burr, and he was dead wrong. There's no question of a vote of conscience. It's a question of what the Constitution required. That impeachment was absurd constitutionally on a procedural basis. You didn't see the Chief Justice sitting in the chair, and yet the man was being impeached in respect of being the President of the United States. Mm-hmm. That was a sham operation. But even more important than that is the substance constitutionally. The man gave a speech which the House managers felt it incumbent upon themselves, the Democrat House managers, to lie about by selectively quoting pieces of it without the accompanying sentence to suggest that speech promoted violence. It's a damned lie. Sorry, I hope I can say damned on your air.
Well, but, if you can't, just change the law.
But it's a slander against him. But the key is you don't have the conscience opportunity to vote against the Constitution of the United States. The First Amendment constrains Congress. Now they say you can go walk in there and you can vote to do anything. Mm-hmm. That does not mean that it's correct, lawful, or proper. It means that you are disregarding the Constitution, and I'm going to call that out. And if it's Senator Burr, then I call it out as to Senator Burr, and I congratulate the GOP Central Committee for doing that.
Well, you could not have come along at a better time to Moore County to give your talk that you just gave, because this county, and I always call it the Alamo of North Carolina, this county has decided we are not going to hang our heads. We are not going to give up. We have not decided that all is lost. We will take back our country in 2 years. And a lot of us believe that the more ridiculous things that Biden does, the better it is for us to do that.
Probably so.
But what I want to talk to you about is your attitude of, we're not done. We're not finished, America. Conservatives, this is not over. And with people like you up there representing us, I think we can see that even more.
I appreciate it, John. I think that's right. It is a fantastic country. It is the best country that's ever existed on the face of the earth. People still believe it, and they're convinced. We can fix a number of things, and we're right back in the game. But we don't want to let the crowd running it now get too far down the road.
And, if you're from another country, I'm okay with you believing that country is the best in the world if you live there. But this is America. You live here now. It's a wonderful country, or wherever you might be from. You have a problem that we have on a smaller scale. We have a problem with what we call the pathetic pilot newspaper. You have a major problem with the media. They are crucifying you for things that you didn't even say.
Absolutely.
Will you address that for a minute?
I think that's one of the reasons our politics have gotten so ineffectual is that people see the fact that the left and a few corporations dominate the entire media message in the country, and they can beat you up. And people get tired of being beaten up, and they also think if they can just sort of get along a little bit, find their a way to please the media, then they'll be effective somehow. I think it's the opposite. I've had they in the North Carolina media when I was in the General Assembly said I had a contentious relationship with them. I think that's a fair call, and I recognize I'm a polarizing figure in the sense that some people, I'm going to say what I believe. And I'm going to give you the choice, John, and all those people out there to decide who they want to represent them. And if it's not me, then so be it. I'm not going to adapt myself and change my stripes every day in order to get that last little vote that the consultant would aim for. I just don't think that's the way our system was designed to work. It doesn't work well when we do that. And I'm content with the idea that some people will not agree. But I think the majority of Americans who have a basic traditional values adore the organic documents and the principles that underlie them, recognize they're the best principles organizing a society. I'm going to say I'm for them. And if they would like me to do what I do, then I'll do it. And if they want somebody else, I respect their choice.
Well, Congressman, I would like to say this radio station, Steve Adams, the owner, has done an amazing job at having different candidates on or different representatives on or different congressmen, judges, Supreme Court, state, and on and on. And we get their take, and we always hold them responsible.
Yep.
We don't just sit here all the time like I'm doing today and say, oh, what a great job you're doing, but you are doing a wonderful job. And we'll reserve the right to disagree with you.
I expect to hear from it when I screw up. So
and we plan to do that. I've got two things here that I really want to talk to you about. Let me just take the shortest one first. It's a challenge. It's got to be a challenge working with Democrats. Let me add a little more. It's not like in the old days when I was a young man where we would see Democrats and Republicans and they would generally disagree, and then they would. These folks are just mean, some of them, and they are pushing the most outrageous things that are a joke when you first hear about them.
Sure.
And then they start to get, watch it, Colonel keeps hitting that microphone. But then we start listening to it more and more, and things are accepted as normal, like the Green New Deal, the most ridiculous thing. Can you talk to us about working with Democrats?
I first of all, notwithstanding that I'm I'm pretty aggressive about representing the views that I think most people have. I believe in having a professional relationship, cordial relationship with everybody I meet, if at all possible. You are correct. However, I take Sandy Cortez as Tucker Carlson calls her. She had an encounter off the floor of the House with a guy named Ted Yoho, fantastic member from Florida, now retired, just last session, and she claimed that he called her a name, and it was and basically they destroyed Ted Yoho. He had to apologize, even though he said he didn't say it. His threats to his committee memberships and so. So she destroyed him for a conversation they were having, and so that sort of sets the parameters. And as a matter of terms of what people are thinking, I will say this. They're pretty far out there members. Al Green is a guy from Texas. You've seen he was the first guy to file articles of impeachment against Trump. I've sat in the snack bar with Al and chatted. He's got some crazy ideas, but we had a pleasant conversation. I'll have a pleasant conversation with anybody who wants to do it, but it is a danger zone. And then a lot of what is thought about is crazy. We were in a briefing yesterday with people from Homeland Security. I'm on that committee. We were getting a member briefing about member security. They're providing air marshals and so forth in airports for some people. I haven't called for it to be done for me. But, the questions that were being asked is, are you rooting out the white supremacists among your air marshals? And how are you proceeding? What progress are you making in hiring non-white people? It's shocking. And but that's the mindset, and unfortunately, it's all over the Democratic caucus. There are only about 4 or 5 people in the whole Democrat caucus that I would call moderate.
Well, if you were ever in the snack bar having a discussion about how Guam could tip over, if you could video that, I would really appreciate that. That was the craziest thing I believe I've ever heard. Now, I had a listener text just now and chew me out a little bit, and they said I got off the subject of the Arizona.
I got off that subject, so I lost it. Yeah, thank you.
Well, whoever that was that texted me, the congressman admitted he got off of it, not me. So.
It was me. I lost track because I made some intro and then my mind wandered.
No.
So, yeah, absolutely. I said before that I was joining the objections to, actually I was going to prepare to join objections to several states, 4 of them in total. Ended up being Arizona and Pennsylvania because
there was no evidence at all for you to do that. Why would you do that?
That's a damned lie. But and as you know, I know that's a rhetorical question. there's lots of evidence, and there are lots of claims that I would say are pretty extravagant, that I haven't seen sufficient evidence to convince me that that particular claim is true. But there is no doubt that there were extraordinary irregularities. I wrote a report myself about the litigation flood that the Democrats engaged in nationally to attack basic safeguards for balloting across the country in 47 states. A fellow named Mark Elias, he's a national lawyer. He's been down here when they had the controversy in 2018 in the 9th District. He's been everywhere. We don't have anybody like that. And they spent tens of millions of dollars opening up all this litigation. That's what led to all those, we call them collusive settlements. They're rotten, they're dirty litigation tricks where they entered into agreements with Democrat elected officials on the executive branches of states to just get rid of all sorts of the rules of the road that keep balloting secure. And so that needed to be addressed on a national basis, and the way we started that was by the electoral objections, and I'm glad I did it.
Well, I'm glad you did it too. Here's my question. What are we going to do about that to prevent it from happening next time? Is that a state issue, or is that
it's everybody's issue on the Republican side?
As far as fixing it,
if we don't get it fixed, if we don't get it in hold of it now, understand that the next wave is already coming at us. There's a bill called H.R. 1, their very first bill. They introduced the same bill last time, couldn't pass it. This time they're going to probably, may be able to get it through, but it forces states to abandon voter ID nationwide. It starts public funding of all federal campaigns. It takes away states' power to district congressional seats. It requires setting up independent or districting commissions, these bureaucratic organizations that can be manipulated by the left.
So it's a way to allow them to, I'm going to use the word steal elections.
They're going to consolidate their ability to steal elections. And so we've got to defeat that. It's got to not get through the Senate. And there's also some things we can do on the litigation front. But we've got to do, the state legislatures, we gained ground. We have more chambers than we did before in the state, about 2/3 of them, I think. And we've got to, those state legislatures are going to have to be active investigating what happened, because we don't have the power to investigate it in Congress because there are no Republicans in control. But if we don't solve that, we're dead in the water forever.
We hear a lot of talk about the Electoral College, and I'm amazed at how wise our forefathers were to put that provision in. And a lot of folks are afraid that the Democrats are just going to get rid of that. Well, they can't get rid of it. It's going to take a constitutional amendment. Could you reassure all of us that it takes a little more than just a vote by a 2 or 3 margin to change the Constitution? There's only 2 ways to do it. Well, anyway, go ahead, please.
John, I think that's correct. There is this effort, this compact, where a number of states want to get together and just have the popular vote determine it automatically, and they'd always habitually follow that. And if they got enough in it, it would. But I think getting enough is impossible, really, as a practical matter. And no, I think the Constitution, you're right, the design of it, the more I study it as I get older and I deal with it more and more, you cannot see that, in my view, as anything other than divinely inspired. It is, the structure of it is as elegant as anything. I think about the product that comes out of legislatures I've been associated with, and there's a lot of bad stuff. That's a phenomenal design.
Can you imagine how long it would take Congress to write something like that? Today it would be 80.
Couldn't happen.
Well, let me just say in close. Well, no, I'm not going to say anything except I do think this is a godly nation. It was created to be a Christian nation. I hope folks won't forget to pray for our nation and forget our importance of our Lord in this. Congressman, we probably only have a few seconds. Anything you want to say?
I agree with what you just last said. Okay. That's what Vice President Pence says every time. I think he does a good job. Pray for our country. The power of that is extraordinarily strong. So I'm glad to be with y'all.
Caroline, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you give us a phone number? Now, don't file a Me Too movement thing on me here. I'm asking for the phone number for folks to call and get a hold of you in reference to you can look while we're chatting here. We had a little more time than what I thought. I should have asked.
Fire away. 704. You know it, Caroline?
Yes, sir. It is 704-218.
Caroline, I'm going to ask you to come over to the microphone. I'm sorry. This is completely. Say it slowly.
Our office number is 704-218-5600.
888-272-5300. We would love to have y'all give us a call.
Okay. All right. That was Caroline, and I don't know if she answers the phone or not, but
Sometimes she does.
I do.
But you can ask for her, and I'm sure. And you're going to be surprised. You'll have a lot better luck than you might think you would getting the whole. Congressman, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
John.
coming in. I mean that sincerely.
I'll be back.
I know
anytime
folks-
you'll have me. Thank
well-
you, Steve. Appreciate everybody.
Yep. This we'll have you anytime, but to make it easier on you, maybe the next time or two we can do a phone.
We'll do whatever works, but I'm glad to come. I really
I
am.
appreciate it. Oh, and by the way, any Democrats, as always, you're welcome on here. We want you to come in. I can't get a Democrat to come in and
I've
give
already
their-
got a Democrat opponent. 2 of them
Well, tell
already.
them they
they're
come on here and we'll
they're
argue
coming
with
after me.
Thanks again, and we'll see you.
All right, so it goes for this